Fred Smith is here. He's the founder and chief executive of FedEx. Fred, good to see you.
Thank you very much. Good to see you.
Here's where I'd like to begin. I look at your stock price and I ask myself, and you would know the answer to this, are the fundamentals for your business as poor as the stock would suggest?
No, our business is strong.
Right. So what's the disconnect?
Well, I don't know. If I sat around thinking about our stock price, I would have stopped doing this a long time ago.
Here's one thing people are probably asking themselves.
Sure.
How's the trade war affecting FedEx?
Well, I went to our Asia Pacific headquarters yesterday, and I had a big briefing about that. You've got to remember, FedEx is a big company.
Yes.
$70 billion. We do a lot of different things. So Asia and China is just part of it. But I would say that there's a lot of adjustment going on out in the Pacific.
How do you see? What are you seeing? What are your people here telling you?
Yeah, a lot of our customers are telling us they're looking at shifting some of their supply chains to Vietnam and
away from China.
Thailand, away from China. Some of them are trying to ship a lot of product in advance of peak season, so they avoid tariffs if they come in. They're putting it on the water. So that begs the question, what happens to orders after the first of the year?
It sure does.
So anytime you have a lot of change and uncertainty like we have today with the tariff dispute, you have businesses that react to it.
Can you put a finger yet, Fred, on the percentage impact when you talk, for example, about customers shifting supply chains away from China?
Yeah.
If it was 100 before, where is it headed toward?
Well, you know, there's a lot of talk about it, but it's a lot easier to talk about it than to do it. Infrastructure has been built up over years. Vietnam, despite the fact that the wage advantage is almost 1/4 of China, you can't just move a factory to Vietnam. So I think at the moment there's more talk about it and sort of advanced planning, and everybody's hoping the tariff dispute will get resolved.
So in practical terms, it's more a matter of front-loading than it is a change in trade flows or the supply chain just yet.
Yep, I would say so.
What happens if the Trump, let's just acknowledge that the president has indicated recently that he'd like to see some kind of a trade deal with China on the table for the G20 meeting in Buenos Aires later this month?
Sure.
What happens if that doesn't materialize and instead the United States goes ahead and slaps tariffs on an additional $257 billion of Chinese goods?
Well, for one thing, you'll probably see a diminution of the renminbi, just like it's already reacting. A great deal of the effects of the tariffs have been dissipated by the currency value reduction in China. This whole thing is a lot more complex than people like to think that it is. And action begets reaction. So, you know, the world will survive. There'll be some changes, but it'll definitely react.
Complexity is what a logistics company like yours is all about. So I wonder to myself, is there a way, given what you see playing out and what some of your customers are telling you, for FedEx, if you will, to capitalize on the disruption created by these trade tensions?
Well, remember, FedEx goes everywhere. So we fly all over the Pacific. As we're sitting here speaking today, there are 9 777s or our MD-11s going eastbound across the Pacific and the same number coming back. We serve all of the countries we just talked about. And China is a huge and important market for us. But in terms of our overall sort of tariff-eligible revenue, it's about 2.4% of our revenues. Hong Kong's a little bit more, but it's got a different regime on the tariffs. But we take things to and from China from a lot of different places: Europe, Southeast Asia, Australia, Japan.
So as opposed to losing the 2.4%, you'll make it up somewhere else.
Hopefully.
You made a big acquisition in Europe.
Yep.
Buying TNT.
Yep.
To grow there.
Yes.
A bigger piece of the pie.
You're right.
Would you consider doing something similar here in Asia?
You got a suggestion? Well, obviously we don't talk about M&A, and there's no acquisition that we feel we need to make. TNT was a very important acquisition for us, but quite frankly, there's not another one on the horizon quite like that.
No,
yeah.
It would be obvious.
Yeah, so.
As you expand internationally, whether it's into Europe, whether it's here into Asia, how concerned are you by this very hot topic. It certainly underlies much of the rhetoric around trade. Theft of intellectual property, something that, I mean, cyber risk is something that FedEx has experienced firsthand.
We did. We were hit by the NotPetya cyber attack, which was acknowledged by the U.S. government to be either done by a state or state-sponsored. It was very costly to TNT. We have great cybersecurity folks, so it didn't get over in the FedEx side, so to speak. But it's something you got to work about every day. Every day you got to work about it. Work to protect yourself.
Who are you more worried about, the Russians or the Chinese or the North Koreans?
Well, you've got to separate it. It may not be the governments. It just may be, rogue elements. It might be a lot of theft in cyber. It's a tough environment.
You don't think state-sponsored espionage is the biggest concern there?
It's a big concern, yes. State-sponsored espionage for commercial purposes is a very big concern. It's one of the things that the U.S. government has put on its list that needs to be fixed.
Fred, I want to take it back to the U.S. for a moment.
Sure.
Amazon is a big FedEx customer,
yep.
Also increasingly a competitor in some respects. Is today's announcement about HQ2A and HQ2B, New York and the D.C. area, a good thing for FedEx?
I don't think it has too much to do with FedEx. You've got to remember, Eric, that Amazon is delivering things from their fulfillment center to customers. We're picking up, transporting, and delivering things from every person in business in the world to every other business. So the biggest single provider of delivery services to the Amazon fulfillment network is not us, it's the U.S. Postal Service. And they're the ones that Amazon's proprietary or indigenous delivery system will take the most volume from.
You think the delivery service partner program that they're building is less of a competitor to FedEx Ground than it is to USPS?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Does it have any downside impact on FedEx Ground?
None that we can really see. So Amazon's a good customer. We think they'll be a bigger customer in the years to come if they continue to grow, and they certainly should. But they're going to do some of their deliveries themselves for many reasons. The biggest single entity that will lose traffic as Amazon puts out its contractor delivery force is U.S. Postal Service.
Well, with that, Fred, I'd like to end our conversation. Thank you so very much.
Great
to see you here in Singapore.